I'm joined now by the two lawmakers who were ousted by the Tennessee House this week, Justin Jones and Justin Pearson. Gentlemen, welcome to Meet the Press. I'm sure this was not the way you thought you'd be appearing on this program or other national programs. Justin Jones, let me start with you. I know you met with Vice President Harris, you met with President Biden. What was their message to you, and what did you hear from them?
Well, thank you so much for having us on today. I think the most resounding message we're hearing from the White House and across the world and people across this nation is that this attack on democracy will not go on unchallenged, that the Tennessee House Republicans' attempt to crucify democracy has instead resurrected a movement led by young people to restore our democracy, to build a multiracial coalition. We are in the midst of a third Reconstruction here, beginning here in Nashville. And I think what, the message is that we will continue to resist, that this is not the end of that their decision to expel us is not the ultimate authority, but that the people will hold them accountable both at the county level and in the special election and going forward there are through our legal processes.
Justin Pearson, have you talked to any of your colleagues or now former colleagues since this vote? Have any of them explained why you were ousted and Gloria Johnson was not?
Yep, it's Justin J. Pearson. And no, I haven't talked to our former colleagues, but I have to tell you, the reality is an institution filled with people who are more concerned about supporting the NRA and supporting the Second Amendment than it is protecting the First Amendment rights of children and teenagers to be able to come to the Capitol and advocate for gun violence prevention laws is not the type of legislature that we deserve and need to have in the state of Tennessee. The reality is Cameron Sexton, the Speaker of the House, called those children and teenagers insurrectionists. And it's that type of language, it's that type of political ideology that is destructive to our democracy. And what ends up happening is the perpetuation of systems of injustice like patriarchy, like white supremacy, that lead to the expulsion of two of the youngest black lawmakers in Tennessee.
Representative Pearson, do you feel like you've been just elected to the State House? Did you ever feel welcome or did you feel unwelcome when you got there?
Yeah, it has always been a toxic work environment to work in the Tennessee State Capitol. When you have people who make comments about hanging you on a tree and hanging black people on a tree as a form of capital punishment. When you wear a dashiki on the House floor and a member gets up and they talk about your dashiki saying it's unprofessional, they're really sending signals that you don't belong here. And that is what the underlying and undergirding comment and responses that we heard on the House floor and the comments to myself and my brother, Representative Jones, was really about. It's about us not belonging in the institution because they are afraid of the changes that are happening in our society and the voices that are being elevated.
In fact, Representative Jones, I can't help but wonder, you were a well-known political activist to many of these state lawmakers. You had been there for a sit-in having to do with Confederate monuments. There had been some run-ins that some lawmakers brought charges against you. They were eventually ended up being dropped. Do you think that history of activism made you a target on the House floor the minute you got elected?
I think our presence as young black voices for our constituencies, people who will not bow down, those who will not be conformed, that's what put a target on us the day we walked in the Tennessee General Assembly. I mean, this is the first time in Tennessee history we had a completely partisan expulsion by a predominantly white caucus. All but one member of their caucus is white out of 75 members. And we are the two youngest black lawmakers in Tennessee. And so what we saw was a system of political hubris. This was not just an attack on us, but it was an attempt to silence our districts, predominantly black and brown districts who no longer have representation. 78,000 people in each of our districts do not have a voice, do not have someone to deal with their constituent relations, are silenced. And that's what this is about. It's about the people whose voices have been taken on Capitol Hill.
And Representative Jones, Gloria Johnson was telling us, I think you were on with me earlier in the week, how they've changed the rules even since you got elected and even since Representative Pearson got elected of just on the House floor. Explain some of the rule changes that were made just in the last few years on expressing dissent on the House floor.
Well, they've limited debate to what they say is 5 minutes, but in reality, you ask one question, they'll spend 5 minutes answering it, and your time is up. You can't reclaim your time. Or the speaker, Cameron Sexton, an autocrat, will not even call on you. Will call the question. Will cut off all debate. When we went outside to support the protest, both myself and my brother, Representative Pearson, our voting machines were turned off, so we couldn't vote on the House floor. The speaker, he runs the Capitol like it's his private palace. And so there is no democracy in Tennessee. Tennessee is the most undemocratic state in the nation. Even in committees, you're silenced from talking about the issues. When we tried to talk about the issue of mass shootings that plagued our community, we were silenced. And all they offered our community were moments of silence, in fact, and empty thoughts and prayers. And our community deserves more than that. But instead of responding to the grief and trauma of our community, the House Speaker, Cameron Sexton, once again silenced us even the day of our protest. And that's what led us to the well.
Representative Pearson, when you look at the maps, right, and you see this, there definitely, you can see there's an attempt to limit the political power of Nashville and Memphis, particularly in African-American communities. Is there any recourse that you have here? I mean, this feels like a very aggressive gerrymander that was beyond just protecting incumbents.
Yes, what we are seeing is the intentional political dilution of votes of people who are more progressive, of communities that are filled with African Americans and people of color. And that is an intentional and systematic effort of people in the majority party to retain as much power as they can in order to be able to dictate and control what it is that their majority Black populations and progressive populations do. In fact, the Speaker, Cameron Sexton, called himself at one point an overseer. This is the type of legislature and people in positions of power, in addition to Governor Bill Lee, who we are dealing with. And so when we realize what is going on in the South, which is you have politicians choosing who will vote for them rather than the people who are supposed to be choosing their elected officials, these are the situations that we get in. And in the South in particular, we need to pay attention to what's happening with state legislatures. This is a battleground because if it's gun violence, if it's abortion, if it's education, if it's healthcare, the South is continuing to lag behind and the people in positions of power are hurting us.
Yeah, there's a dramatic political lines here that have been drawn that we're going to show graphically in a few minutes. But I want to get to last few questions for the both of you. Representative Jones, do you plan to accept a reappointment if it is indeed the case? And if not, do you plan to run in a special election to come back?
Yes and yes. We will continue to fight for our constituents. And one thing I just want to say, Chuck, is that this attack against us is hurting all people in our state. So it's not, even though it is disproportionately impacting Black and brown communities, this is hurting poor white people. Their attack on democracy hurts all of us. And I just want to emphasize that because I don't want it to just be about race, but this is about attack on Black, brown, and poor white communities, silencing them. These lawmakers who are more beholden to the NRA than their own people in their own districts, people like Cameron Sexton.
And Representative Pearson, same question for you. I know you may get reappointed. Will you accept the appointment? And do you plan on running in the special election?
Yes, I would be honored to accept the appointment of the Shelby County Commission and to run in a special election. And I've already heard that people in the state legislature and in Nashville are actually threatening our Shelby County commissioners to not reappoint me, or they're going to take away funding that's in the governor's budget for projects that the mayor and others have asked for. And this is what folks really have to realize. The power structure in the state of Tennessee is always wielding against the minority party and people. And
there may very well be some constitutional rights that have been violated here, and that could be something that the federal courts could be looking at. Justin Jones, Justin J. Pearson, thank you both for spending a few minutes and sharing your views with us.
Thank you so much. We'll keep fighting.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.